Right, so we are live on all our social media handles, on X Spaces, join the conversation there, on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course on myjoyonline.com. Again, my name is Elton Broadway. Now let's settle for the issues this afternoon. And in less than 24 hours, the nation will know whether or not the Speaker of Parliament, Arman Somana Kingsford Babin, rightfully declared 4 seats vacant. The Supreme Court has already stayed the declaration of the Speaker until the final determination of the matter. Now, Koko Asante of our Legal Affairs Desk has been following this case since it started and will join us with more from the proceedings in court today. But listen to the Attorney General, Godfrey Abuadamin, argument before the court.
I would refer the court to first Article 93, Clause 1 of the Constitution, which sets out the composition of Parliament. And says there shall be a Parliament which shall consist of not less than 140 elected members. This should be read as submitted respectively with Article 47, Clause 1 of the Constitution, which says Ghana shall be divided into as many constituencies for the purpose of election of members of Parliament as the Electoral Commission may prescribe, and each constituency shall be represented by 1 member of Parliament. The combined effect of these provisions is that insofar as Parliament is constituted by a certain number of MPs or members of Parliament representing those constituencies, the composition of Parliament shall not be altered except as prescribed for in the Constitution. So no person or authority, with all respect, has the power to make any decision at all or construe the Constitution in a way which will alter or change the composition of Parliament except as stated in the Constitution. So I say that the matters before the court, apart from the meaning of Article 97, Clause 1, Paragraph G and H, also have an effect on the composition of Parliament as prescribed for by the Constitution. That's about GSC stated that in relation to this matter, we need to remind ourselves that there is no parliamentary supremacy under our Constitution. Rather, it is the Constitution that is supreme. As the interpreter of that Constitution, this court's view of the meaning of a constitutional provision cannot be preempted by that of any other agency of the state. In short, a provision in the Constitution means what the Supreme Court says it means, and not what even Parliament has declared it means. I end on this note. The Supreme Court's power to interpret the Constitution has been long upheld from Benjamin Awuno Williams, 1970.
Well, the shocker today was that there was no representation in court for the Speaker of Parliament, and the Chief Justice explained why.
There's nobody here for the Speaker of Parliament. First defendant. All right, by court, no representation for Speaker of Parliament. We note also that the Speaker of Parliament has not filed any statement of case or memorandum of issues, despite the opportunity given for them to be filed. This matter is for hearing this morning. Can we hear counsel for the plaintiff?
So the Speaker's lawyer, was not in court today. Neither did he file his statement to the House, to the court, as directed by the Chief Justice who is presiding over this case. Now, the Attorney General raised the matter of Tadio's absence from the court and demanded that something be done about it. Listen to the interaction that happened between him and the panel on this matter.
By court, the judgment of this court will be delivered tomorrow, 12th November 2024. Yeah.
My lords are most grateful.
Lords, we are grateful. Why, I mean, of course, being entirely the prerogative of the first defendant to file anything at all. Respectfully, I think that if the first defendant came before the court at the last agenda date, represented by counsel made representations before the court to file submissions at a certain point in time, elects not to do so, and then for no reason at all, elects also to appear before the court, clearly that is disrespect to the court. I made this observation because I'm the Attorney General, leader of the bar, and all that. Such conduct, with all respect, should not be tolerated by the court.
Leave it to us, Mr. Attorney General. Leave it to us. I would rather advise that as a member of the bar for which you are the leader, you should reach out to him at the close of these proceedings to find out if everything is all right.
My Lord, indeed, my friend, the Chief State Attorney, reached out to him on Friday to find out if processes are done by him. So we've done our bit. Hardly did we expect that he would not even show courtesy to the court by not showing up. Thank you very much.
Honorable Attorney General, I think at the last agenda, if my memory serves me right, you also said, when we asked that you should file processes, he said he had instructions to deal with the matters that he did, and therefore
he will go for further instructions.
So if he has not been employed again.
No, but my recollection is that that was before the firm agreement and then statement as to when processes will be filed by the court. That was before it. But that's fine. That's
we have a lot
to deal with. That's fine. I'm very grateful. Right.
So if we retire early,
right,
because of the public interest in the matter, we should be able to serve the people in whose sovereignty resides.
Precise. I agree. It's perfect. I'm grateful.
So, as you may be aware, this is a case brought before the court by the majority leader in Ghana's parliament, Alexander Afenyomarke. Now, he is represented in this case by the former Attorney General Joe Gata, and he spoke to the media after the court hearing today.
Any rule of interpretation that is used to interpret Article 97(1)(g) and H will lead to one conclusion with the accuracy of mathematics.
No.
That conclusion being that the intention of the framers of the Constitution was that the act that grounded the vacation of office.
Did anyone vacate any office?
Pardon me?
Did anyone vacate any office? Let's stay true to the records.
Yes.
Please stay true to the records.
But on the ruling of the Supreme Court, that certain acts should be deemed to be a vacation of the office. The ruling of the Speaker, sorry. There are certain acts.
Please listen to yourself, Mr. Gatti.
Yes, please. The ruling of the Speaker.
Mr. Gatti, listen to yourself.
Yes.
And speak concisely.
Okay.
We don't want any confusion this morning.
And my Lord, therefore, Article 97(1)(g) and H will only take effect, if the act that is the person leaving a party by which was elected to join another party, or to become independent and seeks to remain in Parliament without new political coloration, so to speak.
All right, so the plaintiff in this matter, or the petitioner, if you like, is the majority leader in Ghana's parliament, Alexander Afenyomarke. Now, parliament is not sitting because there's confusion as to where the NDC side should sit and where the MPP side should sit. Now, Afenyomarke spoke to the media after the court hearing today and makes the point that he does not disrespect the speaker, but he's all out to ensure that the proper thing is done on the floor of parliament.
We came to court, the court intervened, And now the new argument of Mr. Speaker was that he didn't give a ruling. He only gave an opinion. He expressed a view on the matter. He met us on Tuesday, the 22nd of October, at a pre-sitting meeting. And at the pre-sitting meeting, I told Mr. Speaker that, well, you are saying you have received the court process and that you have not declared the NDC the majority. Now that they are sitting on our seat, what are you going to do, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker told me that that is a responsibility of the clerk. He later repeated the same thing to the Council of State and the Peace Council. The clerk to Parliament made sure that he had arranged our seat, the majority caucus, our seat, at where we are supposed to sit, the right of Mr. Speaker. Placed our name tags there. The NDC came to remove them. Mr. Speaker was aware of this. He watched and continued with the proceedings. Where I think Mr. Speaker failed the nation and failed our democracy. And I do so with utmost respect. Some of the NDC guys are trying to suggest that expressing my view on his conduct amount to disrespect. Let me say it clear that I will be the last person, I repeat, Kwame Afenyo-Markin, will be the last person to disrespect Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker should not think that he's a king. He's an emperor. He's not an emperor. He's a democrat. Therefore, he shouldn't be too sensitive to divergent views and opposing views. What he's doing, in all humility, is wrong. So my friends in the NDC should open their eyes and ask themselves, if they were the ones at the receiving end, how would they react?
So tomorrow is the D-Day, and of course the Supreme Court is expected to rule. The interpretation of the relevant provisions of the Constitution that the court is expected to rule on will have far-reaching consequences for the way things are done in Parliament. Now let's explore what happened in the court today. And Law Lecturer Justice Abdulai joins me via Zoom. Justice, you're welcome to the post. Good afternoon.
No.
Yeah, so it's good to have you. I mean, when at the genesis of this matter, your position was quite clear that the Speaker had done what is right as far as the understanding of the standing orders and the relevant provisions of the Constitution are concerned. Now, this matter has traveled for quite a while now. Now, we've gotten to the apex of it where the court is expected to deliver its ruling on the substantive case tomorrow. In view of all the things that you've heard from the state to the speakers, further particulars that he provided to the matter, do you still stand by your earlier position on this matter?
Indeed, my position has rather been reaffirmed by all the events that have unfolded right from the days of Speaker Okwi. So this morning. My position has never tilted in any way at all. Of course, my opinion and the position cannot necessarily alter the minds or influence the minds of the members of the Supreme Court. They have their minds of their own, and I'm sure that they will deliver something that we probably may be proud of. It's difficult at this moment, actually, the kind of position that the Supreme Court finds itself in. So, on one hand, you could clearly see that they are trying to do what they believe is right within the provisions of our Constitution. But public opinion is clearly against them. Just, I think, over the weekend or thereabout, we saw a publication detailing how the impartiality of the judiciary has gone down by a third, and clearly from 2017 to date, this is a clear question mark on the judiciary, and most of the attack being on the Supreme Court itself, rather than the other levels of courts of the judiciary. So it's a difficult situation they find themselves in. If you remember what the former Chief Justice had said on the predictability of the Supreme Court's decision.
Right.
it makes it difficult if you are a member of the Supreme Court today, and you are a fair-minded person. Whatever decision you give is likely to be met with political interpretations and other things. However good that decision may be, and however right that the interpretation may be, it's likely to be greeted with all kinds of mischievous reactions and all of that. And particularly with this issue that has taken, or in fact, actually started as a political question, and the Supreme Court's earlier pronouncement yielded and indeed affirmed, if you like, the perception of political impartiality of the Supreme Court. So it is difficult to come up with a decision that will be welcomed by the two sides. But I am expecting that they will discharge their obligations without being influenced by the political colorization that has surrounded this entire enterprise.
Right. I'll find out what you make of the arguments put by the Attorney General in court today. Before I do that, let me. Is it normal that a party to a matter in court will be absent on the day that that party is expected to, if you like, move a motion and make his argument? Not only was he not physically present, he also did not file his statement to the court. In this case, I'm talking about the Speaker's lawyer.
Indeed, it is normal for a person to be absent either on the grounds of ill health or other circumstances that are compelling enough to prevent the person from coming to court. Except in this particular case, the reasons are not on the basis of ill health. They emanate from a series of events that has culminated into this. I would have been surprised if the lawyers had even showed up. Let's remember, between the last couple of days, we have had a letter from the state denying Parliament and indeed the Speaker, if you like, the opportunity to hire the services of Thaddeus Story in this case.
Right.
And so the first question you'd ask yourself would be that, what then is the position of the standing of this lawyer in this matter if he's not going to get paid? Because the state has clearly denied him his fees. And the fees he charged, indeed, is if you check, it is directly in line with the bar scale of fees. And so it's not as if the man had charged outrageously beyond some limit or standard. But he had been denied that opportunity. And the reason is that the Speaker or Parliament could have hired the services of the Attorney General. I think that is the biggest preposterous argument I've ever heard. When you have an Attorney General whose position is completely not in line with the Speaker, you want, or Parliament, and you still want that Parliament to hire the service of the same Attorney General to defend it how? But this is the position of the state in relation to Parliament getting its own private legal service. And so I think that the Thaddeus had seen this communique from the state to Parliament. And so naturally, he'll question himself whether he'd want to do this pro bono or would want to do this with, regardless of the circumstances. Being human, you would ask yourself questions. And those questions would inform your next line of action. So I think it was quite mischievous that the Attorney General, who superintended over this same issue, or at least was privy to that, would pretend and be asking all these questions in open court, knowing that the services being rendered, the fees thereof has been denied. And so obviously you don't expect the lawyer to be in court. And then moves on to the second issue, really. So the Speaker himself is not a party to the suit. So asking whether the Speaker ought to have been in Parliament or otherwise is also quite a weird question or comments to be made, because unless you drive on mischief, Because the Speaker is not a member. I mean, he's not a party to the suit.
Right.
And his physical presence is not needed.
So, Counsel, in the absence of the lawyer for the Speaker in this case, in the absence of an opposing view to the matter in question, is the Supreme Court just going to base its ruling on what they heard from the lawyer for Alexander Afenyo-Markin and, of course, the Attorney General, or they will look at the merit of the case and make an impartial judgment, even in the absence of an argument from the Speaker's lawyer?
Indeed, the Superior Courts are not obliged to even look at the arguments as filed. They can take this whole matter from a completely different angle, come up with a decision that will be uninformed by any of the positions canvassed by either of the parties. And indeed, it's not just the Supreme Court, the Superior Court generally. Because what they need are the facts and to know the line of arguments you are coming up with. But it is not to say that they will necessarily be influenced by those arguments you advance. They have their, as I indicated earlier, they have minds of their own. They see two things and be able to make value judgments based on the circumstances of the case. Because remember, their role, particularly when you're dealing with the Supreme Court, their role is to grow the Constitution.
Right.
To expand it, to ensure that interpretations and enforcement are able to take into consideration future occurrences whilst looking at today's events. And so they are not necessarily boxed into the kind of arguments that you and I bring to the table. Our arguments may be skewed in favor of the matters of today, but they have an obligation to look beyond today. And that is why, regardless of an opposing opinion, they will still be able to come out with time-tested positions if they wish to do so.
Just on this arguments in court by the Attorney General, and then the central theme of all that he told the court was in reference to the provision in contention that the framers were interested in Parliament as it exists in just one term and not a futuristic Parliament. In this case, the argument or the reason why these 4 MPs are quote and unquote out of Parliament does not suffice. I don't know what your understanding of this.
Well, I think this has been my position, that if you, the literal interpretation of what exists in the impugned provisions are quite clear, that they are not looking into the future. They are looking at the existence of matters at the time that they are raised. And so if you look at some of the provisions, one of the provisions, for instance, when it relates to the, what's it called, the independent member of Parliament, it even includes the phrase, if he seeks to remain. Now, without even being an English teacher, I wonder how one can interpret seeks to remain to be a future Parliament that the person has not even contested for, or of which elections have not been run and declared yet. I don't know how you can seek to remain in that future Parliament without that being an intention. So, but of course, we all stand to see what beautiful interpretation, if it is, that the Supreme Court will bring up tomorrow. But I do not think that this simple meaning can be twisted such that it will favor a mischievous intention of the NPP side in particular.
And of course, 9 a.m. tomorrow is just is less than 24 hours away. But again, apart from the strict interpretation of the Constitution, there's also what the general public is viewing the Supreme Court. Indeed, if you have been checking comments on social media, for example, a lot of people seem to be of the view that the court has already made up its mind, and for that reason, whatever is happening is just formality. There appears to be lack of confidence especially in relating to politically exposed matters before the courts. The Afrobarometer of 2024 makes similar point where confidence in the judiciary has reduced to levels that is clearly unacceptable. As the court put itself in a position of satisfying what the law says and, of course, the expectation of the general public, and to protect the sanctity of the court, what will be your own expectation as we traverse this particular road?
Yeah, indeed. This is why I said in my initial comments that the Supreme Court has a lot of work to do to dispel this level of mistrust and if you like, mischievous impressions that it has created for itself. I don't think anybody inflicted it on the Supreme Court. I think it is and perceptions really matter.
Right.
Perceptions in this case matters a lot. I think during the week, the Supreme Court, in fact, the Judiciary Council, I think, actually issued a similar questionnaire trying to solicit views of how people perceive them, particularly stakeholders see them. And I think, for me, it is one way that they are trying to gauge public perception, particularly court users, in order to be able to maybe guide themselves going into the future. But I think beyond that, beyond soliciting for these information, the kind of pronouncements and the kind of decisions that come out should resonate with the people. The mood of the people are part of the considerations that the court look up to make a decision. And so, if the people are seeing you as being biased, people are seeing you as being politically aligned with an executive arm of government rather than being with the people, I think it is really a problem, and it's a problem that ought to be worked on. And I say this because also taking into consideration the fact that we have had this downturn of mistrust and wrong reputation of the Supreme Court only from the recent years. That's not to say that in the past maybe there were things were not wrong, but at least those were undercurrent mistrust that were not within the public domain. People would talk about, for instance, corruption without necessarily even providing evidence. People would talk about biases without necessarily providing evidence. So there were more suspicions and other things. But now it's as though it has taken a center stage, sort of, and it's as if the evidence of this has now been put within the public domain, such that everybody can easily point out to something and say that on the basis of A, B, C, D, I do not think that anything good will come out of this. And just imagine the kind of people who also come out with similar views. And that's what I've mentioned, for instance, the former Chief Justice. This is the whole Chief Justice. Right. We're not talking about a judge, an ordinary judge. We're not talking about a lawyer. We're not talking about a teacher like myself. We're talking about the person who sat at the apex of this same court, telling you that your decisions are too predictable, and it creates serious tracks within the body politic. It is not healthy for our democracy. And so if you are getting this kind of information from your own folks, and indeed folks that were also at the helm of affairs within the same setup, I think it should be a clarion call for us to take up the pieces and see where we are getting things wrong, and do things the way that would build confidence. Because I keep reminding each of us that the courts are our last resort. When everything else goes wrong, that is where we go for protection.
Right.
And so if that place becomes endangered, then we are all in a very bigger problem. We are in a problem that we may probably not be able to solve now. Because as for the executive and the the legislature, we know they are all partisan. And we know we voted for them through a particular line of reasoning.
Right.
But the judiciary is not set up for that. It's set up to protect you and I. It's supposed to be the arbiter, even between these two or multiple political party interests that are probably not in line with our thinking and indeed our belief systems and principles. And so if the judiciary is also seen to be tilting towards the same line that we do not expect them to be, or the line of those that we voted for on political lines, that is where the biggest challenge starts from. And that is why we have to stop it before it gets worse.
Nevertheless, you are confident that the outcome, the decision tomorrow will bring finality to the impasse in Parliament?
If we do not have that kind of confidence, we may end up rocking the boat for all of us.
Right.
We need to have a continuous confidence in them. That is the only way that even if they are getting it wrong, one day conscience might ignite someone to think and do things differently.
All right, Justice Abdulai, thank you so much. The law lecturer with the University for Professional Studies. And of course, the D-Day is tomorrow. The court will come to a decision, and the decision will have consequences for the composition in Parliament. And we'll wait anxiously for that decision tomorrow at 9 a.m. at the Supreme Court of Ghana. We're going to take a short break here on the phone. When we'll come back, we're going to talk about security in West Africa and how that can have negative effects on our elections. We're just 26 days away from the December presidential and parliamentary election. Why are some doctors drunk on duty and abusing, other people sexually? We've got those conversations also coming your way on the pulse. We'll take a short break and return with more. Right, so welcome back to the pulse here on Joy News. And this segment, we're going to have a very important conversation on security. Let's explore the security situation in parts of West Africa ahead of the December 7 general election. Now, the security situation in West Africa has worsened in recent years, in particular across the Sahel. This threatens the security as well as the political and economic stability of Ghana and other countries in the region. And last month, you remember, the Ministry of National Security expressed deep concern over a recent report by Reuters, which falsely, according to them, claimed that Islamist militants are using northern Ghana as a logistical and medical base to support their insurgent activities. Now, Reuters' report suggested that Ghanaian authorities appeared to be largely turning a blind eye to insurgents crossing from neighboring Burkina Faso to obtain food, fuel, and even explosives, as well as receiving medical treatment in local hospitals. But the ministry asserted that Reuters, without conducting independent verification, relied on a previously discredited publication by Netherlands Institute of International Relations. But how worried should Ghana be as we head to the December 7 general election? It's just 26 days away. Now, my guest today has published extensively on African politics and security in West Africa, mainly on jihadist groups and political instability. His recent publication included Journey to Jaffa Fate, a vehicle framework of jihadist conflict in West Africa 2024. Dr. Mohammed Dan Suleiman is a founder of the Center for Alternative Politics and Security West Africa and associate professor of international relations at King Fayed University of Petroleum and Minerals in Saudi Arabia. Doctor, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So should we be worried about whether we will have peaceful elections or not in December?
Well, first of all, greetings to your audience. Yes, we should always be worried. If you look at our past elections, we've never had an election where we haven't lost a life in this country. So naturally, we should be worried. And we've never also have elections without there being election violence.
Right.
Okay. So if we're going to have elections and we're looking at these historical antecedents, then of course we need to be worried.
I remember that after the 2016 election, when vigilantism became a topical issue in the country, government went to Parliament to pass a law that outlawed such activities. Now, some say that they may not exist in name or in a group, but they are still there providing whatever they've been providing for all the political parties.
Yeah, I'm actually one of the people who think that the Vigilantism and Related Offences Act, has not really done the job of preventing that manifestation of violence and a manifestation of weak statehood. If you listen to what many actors say, for example, if I am representing a political party and I say that by fire, by thunder, someone will win the election, someone has got to stoke that fire, someone has got to start the thunder, whatever.
Right.
What is this person seeing to be able to make that statement? So I am of the view that these extra-legal groups, what the laws have done is to push them to the lower invisible fears of society. And like you rightly said, they are not at the national level. We don't see them. It's not as visible as they used to be. But I believe they are there. I believe they are there. And I think we should take actions before they actually manifest, in a very violent way.
But Doctor, are there worrying signs that perhaps we are overlooking with just 26 days to elections? Last week, for example, the UK High Commissioner made reference to an easy calm in the country that potentially will be the triggers for electoral violence in December. We've heard similar comments from the US ambassador to Ghana. We've heard comments from political actors. From where you sit as an expert on security matters, are there warning signs that we are overlooking or we should pay attention to as we head toward December?
One of those warning signs are the statements that these contenders in the upcoming elections actually make. Like I said earlier on, if someone is making comments, they've got to have something behind what they are saying. So that is, for me, first warning signs. The second, actually, is the propensity for our politics to be too adversarial. There is so much hot air in the environment. And when we practice zero-sum politics for a very long time, and factions believe that if I lose everything, and if I win everything, you tend to realize that the propensity for violence is there. And that calm, I believe, is not good, because first of all, it makes it difficult for security agencies and those responsible to get a false sense of security and not do things that they should have done, and then wait till election day to realize that things are not that good. All right, so for example, there's this Afrobarometer survey that got reported. And one of the institutions that have the very little trust of Ghanaians is the police. And these are the same institution that is supposed to oversee
the elections.
The elections. So if the people do not trust the police force, for example, how are we supposed to have a violence-free elections? And we've also heard factions in the elections saying that you don't trust the police, all right, and that they will take things in their own hands to protect the ballot. So these are signs that I believe are quite ominous, and we should, do something about it.
But the question really is, why should elections in Ghana become a do-and-die affair? Last week we all witnessed what happened in the United States of America.
Yeah.
Less than 12 hours actually, they declared the winner of the elections. Yeah. And life is back to normal. They are moving on. Yeah. Why in Ghana, it's like everybody is sitting in a position where anything can happen. You are afraid for your life and all those issues. Why? We are practicing the same democracy.
Yeah. Well, we are, I think, practicing the same democracy, but I believe that the democratic maturity that we have, is not there. It doesn't belong to where theirs belong to at the moment. Over here, like you rightly said, election puts life on hold. Like governance comes to a halt for election to take place before we then come back to govern. For me, I think it is all because we've gotten our political structures wrong. I believe, like, we got democracy from Europe, and what is happening in America is supposed to be something that should happen here. But over the years, we practice politics of mimicry, I think, and we mimic these institutions, these other countries, hoping that what works there will work here. It won't work here, because the political situation in America is different, and the political situation here is different. What we have here is a zero-sum politics. Like I said, zero-sum politics. One party wins, the other loses.
The winner takes all syndrome.
Yes, it's a relative gain. There's nothing like absolute gain in this instance. And that means all the investment, if you lose, all the investments you've made would go down the drain. So it becomes a do or die affair. You know? So one way of addressing this is to make politics less combative, to make it more friendly, more conciliatory, rather than the adverse politics that we practice.
But we know that I'll soon take you outside the shores of Ghana and how that may affect our elections. But just question, you know, the Peace Council, they've been asking the political parties to sign the peace pact like it's done every year, every election year. The NDC, they set some conditions, saying that until these conditions are met, we will not sign. In fact, the NDC, they've resolved in their position not to sign the peace pact. All the political parties are in readiness to sign it. When you hear such comments and such posture from the largest opposition party in the country, potentially can win the next election, how much more fuel does this add to the already volatile situation ahead of the election?
It adds a lot of fuel. You know, like you rightly said, NDC is the main opposition party. And I believe for them to suggest that they won't sign, suggests to me that they have seen some signs themselves. They've seen cases or evidence to suggest that if they sign, they're going to be disadvantaged by just signing. Maybe there's something that they want to do that by signing to prevent them from doing. And maybe in the past, they've signed such documents and they have not really received from that particular action what they expected to receive. So the whole process to them maybe is compromised, and they do not have trust in the process. And that is a very serious issue. If a political party like the NDC doesn't consider something as peaceful as signing this very document, then it's a cause for worry.
Right. Now, let's look at countries that borders Ghana, and most of them are in a state of instability.
Yeah.
Mali, Burkina Faso. Now, in my intro, I spoke about the Reuters report of last month. The National Security Ministry came to discredit that it was not 100% true, what they were portraying. But you've done a lot of work in this area. What is your studies telling you?
I think you mentioned something earlier on about insurgents using Ghana as a safe haven.
Yes, according to Reuters report.
Yes. Actually, I've been hearing this for the last 2-3 years. You know, that, I mean, the likelihood of there being an attack in Ghana is very little.
Very little.
Yeah, very little. And that is because, you know, you don't rock the boat. You know, or the entire region. Togo, there has been an attack. Benin, there has been an attack. Ivory Coast, there has been. And Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. All right. So the sense I get is that insurgents consider Ghana to be where they can come in, you know, recuperate and go back. This is the sense I'm getting. So I believe that there is a sense in which I can agree with that particular report. But this security space is also...
Meaning it is possible that they are able to walk into our country and walk back?
Yes, I have interviewed immigration officers and border protection officers who have, you know, admitted to something like this. So, and it didn't happen yesterday. I've been hearing this for almost 3 years now. All right. But in the defense of the National Security Ministry, counterterrorism and counterinsurgency generally is usually based on intelligence. And not all these are open source intelligence. Sometimes it's covert operations. So I don't think that an entity like the US Embassy or any other would be privy to the doings of some of these highly sensitive government ministries to be able to make that assessment that they are not doing enough, or they are, not serious with this very issue. But as to whether Ghana is under threat of this particular security situation, yes, it is. You know, it can happen here. Whatever is happening in the Sahel can happen in Ghana.
But to the extent that they can infiltrate, not that in terms of, you know, threatening our national security. Yeah. The fact that they can walk into the country, according to the Reuters report, they can come and buy food stuff, go back. They can even come and seek medical attention here. Sometimes buy explosives and then take them back wherever they are taking them to. Doesn't that suggest a failure of security?
Yes, it does. I mean, what makes a state usually fundamentally are two things: your sovereignty and your territorial integrity. All right. So if clandestine agents like that, transnational agents like that, can just crisscross your borders for the sake of, without any hindrance, then fundamentally your statehood is compromised. All right. So yes, that is fundamental. And national security, one of the things that reinforces the national security of a country is the integrity of the borders. All right. So if they can come in and go, all right, that is a big if, all right, based on my evidence, I tend to think that is what is happening. Now, if that is happening, then that is a very, very serious failure on the part of national security.
And do they pose a threat to the stability of this country?
Yes, of course. If they come in, they may not. Terrorist activities do not only manifest in the bombs that you see, like there's an explosion and there are dead bodies around. Now, that is maybe the extreme end of their activities. There are so many other things that they do. And we are talking about human lives here. So if they come to Ghana to recuperate and then they go to Burkina Faso to kill human beings, it is still a threat to security in the region. Because what it does is it emboldens them. Now we can go to Ghana, of all places, a secure place, Ghana that is seen as a bastion of democracy in the region, and come and get away with it. So, it emboldens them. And who knows when those sleeper cells, if they are in this country, who knows when their agenda will change? From
Is it possible that we have sleeper cells in the country?
It's possible. It is possible.
Perhaps a bit of education will do. When we talk about sleeper cells, what exactly are we talking about?
We're talking about elements that come to Ghana. They are just here. They are terrorists or insurgents, but they are only here to observe. They are all here to be here for a while until they get the, command from above to do something. Okay, so they come here to learn. They go native, as they say, to see what is on the ground, and then they find it very difficult to act because they know the people. All right, so that is what sleeper cells are. So if they are coming today to recuperate or buy food or just to do reconnaissance, surveys and prelims, who knows when the agenda will change from just coming to stay and go back to actually coming to attack. So it's a very sensitive.
But if Ghana has remained in charge all these years in the midst of the instability around us, then it means that our security is doing something great.
Yes, relatively Ghana is in a better shape. But, better according to a certain standard. So the strength of that performance is not determined by what you do. It is determined by what the standard that you are setting. If you are saying Ghana is better compared to a country like Burkina Faso, which has a larger chunk of its territory in the hands of insurgents, then you are setting a very low standard to judge your security by. So I think that yes, relatively okay, but it is not that good.
So for these jihadists or the insurgents, are they locals trained to pursue a certain agenda, or we have foreign elements that are behind it?
Both, I think. Both. Jihadism is both local and global. For jihadism, any other acts of political violence to happen, there are usually things that need to be in place. It is said that you need to have favorable ideology, okay? There has to be pre-existing networks, okay? And importantly, there has to be an aggrieved population. And those aggrieved populations are usually local people. The ideology sometimes comes from outside, all right? But the aggrieved population are usually within the country. So it's a combination of both local elements and global elements. Yeah, that is what come together to make it possible for these groups to thrive and survive under the current circumstances.
And from your studies, from the countries that they are so pronounced, is it the case that they've come to stay? Those countries cannot do anything about it?
From the way things are going, this Boko Haram, for example, somewhere June 2009, they came out quite big in 2010. And we have seen, starting in a little pocket of northeastern Nigeria, made their way all through to the entire northern Nigerian region into Chad, Cameroon, even Niger. 2012, we had Ansar Din taking over Kidal, Bamako, and Gao. and almost ran over Kidal, Timbuktu, and Gao, and they almost ran over Bamako until
in Mali.
Yes, in Mali, yes, and until the French were called in 2012, 2013. So from that particular Operation Serval, all the way to 2022, the G5 Sahel, despite the existence of these number of responses, you still have these jihadist groups expanding, metastasizing, increasing in temerity and daringness. So if I look at that, I can say that they are almost here to stay. And it all depends on the actions of states.
Because these countries are without constitutional rule.
Yeah.
And also poor countries as well.
Yeah.
And so people are easily recruited into this agenda because, they are able to find something for them to do. Now, we have an election coming up. To what extent should we guard against these infiltrators?
We should. Usually, we should guard it, hawkishly, I should say. When events of violence happen, based on what has happened in the past, it is usually when there is an ease. People are not looking. That is when they take advantage of it. Okay. The issue in Bamako, for example, there was this political turmoil in the center of government, and then the jihadists took advantage of it, and they declared a caliphate in northern Mali. I believe that the election period, whilst all Ghanaians are looking inward, we electing the president. So all security agencies are directed to ensuring that there is a free and fair, peaceful elections. That is when these actors may want to infiltrate more. Because I believe they are already infiltrating. And if they are not, then they would take that opportunity to infiltrate. So I believe that we should take that very serious. And also arms. Arms are just crossing the border. The insecurity is not about the person, the insurgent crossing the border, but arms crossing, drugs crossing. All of those factors should be taken into consideration in the upcoming elections.
So what should national security do? The political parties themselves are creating, an atmosphere of insecurity ahead of the elections. Yeah. Somebody sitting somewhere says, there's a right trigger for me.
Yeah, national security should be very, very vigilant. I am sure they know what to do. They know their work more than some of us. We are only researchers. We can only tell them what is happening out there. But I believe they know what should be done because this is what they are trained to do. But we have to be extremely vigilant in the next few months. And we should guard our borders, especially those vulnerable areas of our country.
Because clearly, our borders in the northern part, and in fact, most of our borders are porous.
Yeah.
And evidence abound.
Yeah.
The last time the Boundary Commission undertook inspection of some of the pillars in our border towns in the northern region, they came across foreign nationals engaging in legal mining.
Yeah.
They had to deport some of them. They were working in comfort. It tells you, how porous our borders are.
Yeah. And these foreign nationals, who knows who they are affiliated with? Terrorist groups and these insurgents, they usually thrive in close proximity to sources of finance. Okay. So one of the connections that have been made is the connection between resources and terrorism financing. So you see the connection. And the borders, everywhere. Everywhere. The situation in Boko, for example, there is this fear for me that in the next few years, if that conflict is not resolved, there will be a coalition of the Sahel situation coming down a little bit more to, sort of implicate what is happening in Boko. Before you know, the Boko insurgencies become also somehow transnational. Because all these conflicts these terrorist groups that exist in northern Mali, they did not just happen in a vacuum. They were pre-existing conflicts. They capitalized on that to sell their message. So, relatively, Ghana is okay, but that okayness is contingent upon the standard we are basing that okayness on. And that standard is not good enough. Yeah.
What's your final words before I let you go?
My final words is all these insecurity elections are worries about violence and not having free and fair elections. I believe it is because of the failure of politics much more broadly. And I think the way to go is to rethink the way we do politics and the way we practice democracy within this country, in the region. I believe if we begin to rethink, there will be a lot of ways we can use to improve our politics and our security.
All right. Dr. Mohammed Dan Suleiman is the founder of the Center for Alternative Politics and Security West Africa and an associate professor of international relations at King Fayed University of Petroleum and Minerals in Saudi Arabia. So when are you going back?
Friday.
Okay. Is it possible you'll be back to vote?
I will consider that. I'll consider that. I don't know who I'm voting for yet.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll consider that.
Yes, all right. Yeah. One day we'll talk about Saudi and how the big names in football have revolutionized, sporting activities in Saudi.
Yeah, hopefully. We are hosting the World Cup 2034, right? Yeah, so hopefully, we'll get that opportunity.
All right. Thank you so much for passing through this afternoon.
You're welcome.
Here on the pulse. Now, let's talk about something very important. Imagine being on admission at a hospital and you are being attended by a daughter who is drunk or harassing you sexually. The Ghana Medical Association has expressed deep concern over issues of alcohol abuse, drug use, and sexual misconduct among some of its members. Now, according to the GMA president, Dr. Frank Serebo, these behaviors pose serious risks as affected doctors continue to treat patients daily. Speaking at the Ghana Medical Association National Annual General Meeting, Dr. Serebo noted that the association is currently facing numerous lawsuits alleging medical and professional misconduct.
Professionalism. Let me quote. Though intelligence goes far beyond IQ, it requires sound judgment, reasonable thinking, and depth of character. And I must say, foolishness often masquerades as wisdom. Unquote. Professionalism has nothing to do with IQ. It's a matter of intelligence, attitude, and character. It is a matter of self-discipline, moral integrity, ethics, empathy, respect to human life, and dignity. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask, is professionalism in the health sector dwindling? Is there so much focus on greed and selfishness? Is there a lack of respect for colleagues and subordinates? Recently, the junior doctors are holding various forum or fora, and they are indicating that we are bullying them. Is it true? But at least all of us can attest to the escalation of lateness to duty, absenteeism, poor documentation, and also not dedicating enough time to our employers. People walk into the hospital at 9, by 12, they are walking out. You ask them, they say they are done. And yet they expect to be paid for working 8 hours at least in a day. We have some health personnel who are involved in alcoholism, drug misuse, and abuse, which affect the quality of their lives. There has been, in extreme circumstances, reported case of sexual harassment perpetrated by health workers. And yesterday, the Medical and Dental Council Registrar, Dr. Divine Bayubala, told us that there are a lot of pending cases of sexual harassment even before the council. We have had cases where doctors have been badly discussed on radio shows and other media outlets. There have been several legal suits against health facilities, with the outcomes not being favorable to us as health workers.
Well, last month, organized labor threatened a strike over the government lack of action against illegal mining. But the Ghana Medical Association chose not to participate following a decision by its council against joining the strike. This decision led to a petition from the GMA member, Dr. Vishnu Nene Lemon Abayete, calling for the removal of the GMA president, Dr. Frank Serebo. However, Dr. Serebo stands by his actions, insisting he acted appropriately in line with the council's directive.
Galamsey is something most of us hate. The destruction of our forest reserves and the pollution of our water bodies is unpardonable. I will, however, want to address the ghost of organized labor at this Congress. Indeed, this is a creation of our own, the Frankenstein of our time, which may continue to haunt us all into the future. It must be stated clearly and unambiguously that Ghana Medical Association is not a subset of organized labor. We are not. We are an independent association and a labor union that takes and should take decisions on our own terms and principles. GMA cannot and should not be salivating when organized labor rings the bell. We won't be salivating when they ring the bell. Ave Caesar, morituri te salutant, a Latin phrase that translates into Hail Caesar, we who are about to die salute you. This cannot apply to GMA because Caesar in the form of organized labor is home. We can't say that we are about to die and we salute anybody. No way. The decision by the GMA not to join the organized labor strike or intended strike on the 10th of October 2024 was a majority decision by the council of the GMA. You hear people say, oh, it was not a council decision. The decision was taken on the 3rd of October 2024. 2 days after the decision was taken, before members could be informed, there was a leak from the council platform to the media. This planted the virus of chaos and generated various forms of discussions, with some seriously uncomplimentary.
Right, so that's the Ghana Medical Association official response to organized labor and why they chose to not be part of the strike that organized labor called, but later on, called it off again. We'll take a short break. When we return, former President John Mahama on the flag bearer of the NDC, Dr. Mohamed Bawumia, flag bearer of the NPP, they are all in the Ashanti region canvassing for votes. We'll take you live there for the very latest. Come back to the show, to the election headquarters. And of course, with just 26 days to the parliamentary and presidential election, Fitch Solutions has reiterated its earlier positions that former President John Mahama, the flag bearer of the NDC, will win the December 7th elections. In a report released on November 6th, according to the UK-based firm, the economy will play a major role in Mahama's victory, as many Ghanaians voters are dissatisfied with the current management of the economy by the ruling MPP. It also points out that the ruling party track record in the last few years does not favor it retaining power. Mike Kuringa, senior analyst for Sub-Saharan Africa, speaking at the latest Sub-Saharan Africa microeconomic update, points out why the NDC most likely will win the elections.
The long-standing view has been that the current opposition party, the National Democratic Congress, or NDC, is best positioned to secure victory in both the presidential and the parliamentary elections this December. The foundation of this prediction really lies in Ghana's recent economic challenges, which we believe will put the ruling New Patriotic Party, or NPP, at a disadvantage. So if you look at the chart on the left here, you'll notice that shortly after the last election, so in 2020, inflation began to rise rapidly, which has led to a deterioration in living standards across the country in the last couple of years. Given the strong focus on the economy for voters at the moment, the NPP's track record over the past few years is probably going to work against them, tipping the scales in favor of the NDC. Our expectation of an NDC victory also aligns with current election polls, which consistently show that the NDC's nominee, John Mahama, is leading the race, as you can see on the right-hand side chart here. Now, what would a change in government mean for policymaking? Not much, really. While Mahama has talked about, for example, renegotiating Ghana's IMF program, we believe this is largely electoral rhetoric. Given Ghana's reliance on IMF funding for macroeconomic stability, it is unlikely that an NDC administration would risk funding delays that would create significant external imbalances. I think it's important to note that the NDC has previously managed IMF programs, and we expect that the party will seek to work closely with global financial institutions in order to implement fiscal consolidation, really to secure critical financing and restore investor confidence in the country. I would also quickly like to take the opportunity here to highlight that we are hosting a special webinar on the Ghanaian elections on December 4th. We'll spend a bit more time talking about what the elections will mean for Ghana's economy, what they will mean for political risk in the country, and what the implications are for the banking sector. So if you're interested in this, please stay tuned and register for the webinar, which will be on December 4th. And you can register through the Fitch Solutions website.
Well, the chairman of the NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, has accused the MPP of denting his campaign with a widely circulated video clip in which the NDC chairman is heard claiming his party, if successful in staging a comeback, will cancel the free SHS program. Mr. Asiedu Nketia, however, says the video has been doctored to distort the party's message. Nanaya Ojima has been touring the Ashanti region with the NDC national chair and has come through with this report.
The first day of the phase 2 of Asiedu Nketia's retail campaign made stops at Secha From Plains, Edra, Efija, Secha East, and Kwabri East constituencies. Communities, some of whom were hosting the campaign for the first time, came out in their numbers. At Edra Secha Dumase, the NDC chair reminded electorate of the government's failure to complete all community day senior high schools initiated by the John Mahama administration. He was emphatic of the party's support for the free SHS policy, enumerating intentions to deliver the schools initiated.
Aya double track here. A big school. Na hoji miensa. No betre fie busu mensiano. President Mahama say.
The prevailing double track system, where students go to school for 3 months and stay home for 6 months, will be cancelled under the next NDC administration. Our strategy is to complete all 200-day senior high schools. This will ensure students have access to education. There will be enough dormitories, classrooms, and all amenities to ensure they all go to school in the same period. On the NDC's youth development agenda, Mr. Asiedu Nketia assured of NDC's support for apprenticeship. I am happy to find a lot of young people here. We are at a point where the young people will have to put their destiny into their hands and fight for their well-being. Some of the old folks have destroyed the country. If you allow them to continue like this, you will suffer after their death. They have left the country in debt. The NDC chairman intends to visit some rural communities in all constituencies of the Ashanti region, galvanizing votes for the party. For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima reporting.
Now to the camp of the MPP, and Vice President Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia has announced government will from December 1, 2024 provide free dialysis treatment for kidney patients under the National Health Insurance Scheme. Addressing stakeholders meeting at Old Tafo in the Ashanti region, Dr. Bawumia outlined the government effort to support needy patients with the cost of treatment through the NHIs. According to him, the free dialysis policy is as a result of successful pilot program launched earlier this year for patients over 60 years and below 18. Now, under the policy, all kidney patients who are registered under the NHIS will be entitled to free dialysis treatment. Dr. Bawumia was also the MPP's flag bearer explained that the policy is aimed at reducing the financial burden on kidney patients and their families, who often struggle to afford the high cost of dialysis treatment.
National health insurance no na egu yebaye yedi yepeja national health insurance no yedi sika akoshem na uhwe so a eyarea na national health insurance enhwe mo no yedi aka ho childhood cancer ene mkoda omonya cancer yehwe free under national health insurance. And then the atosumieno sickle cell sufferers. So more munya sickle cell yarea you show munya free under national health insurance. The success miena miensa asofoka ho say kidney dialysis. Say yaba no and then ampa ngofo bebre nya kidney problems. Enti mu hia dialysis. A dialysis no so sikano doso nipa bebre ntimi entua saa sikano enti 6 months ago ye started pilot say ye the dialysis no beba national health insurance so nipa na umuye over 60 any under 18 for the last 6 months umuji dialysis under national health insurance free. So, pilot, the pilot, every year from December 1st this year, from December 1st, all kidney dialysis patients, umubeji under national health insurance free for kidney dialysis from December 1st.
And of course, with just 26 days until the presidential and parliamentary elections, now pressure is mounting on the Electoral Commission to disclose how printing companies were chosen to produce the ballot papers for the elections. Now, on October 10, 2024, the convener for Election Watch Ghana, Mark Ewusi Akon, formally requested information from the EC and the Right to Information Commission about the selection process. However, 1 month on, with no response from both the commission, Mr. Akon is voicing his frustration, stating that the silence surrounding his request amounts to deliberate attempt to undermine the democratic institutions of the country.
Early a month ago, we invoked Article 18 of the Right to Information Act 989 to demand specific information about procurement of contracts by the Electoral Commission to some companies to print ballot papers for the 2024 general elections. And the informations were very basic and very simple, that they should produce or provide us details of companies that bidded for the contracts, including their names, their address, their contact information, the criteria the Electoral Commission used to give out that contract. We also were looking out for information on the evaluation methodology, the weighing criteria, and then their scoring system, because we need to get all these informations. We also went further to ask for an investigation report that was conducted to address potential conflict of interest, because we have earlier on said that there are some companies in there who claim have won this contract, that is Buck Press, and we know the relationship between Buck Press and then the current government, that we think that it is a conflict of interest. And again, Assembly Press is headed by an appointee of the New Patriotic Party. His survival in office is dependent on these elections. So if NPP is winning, then it means that he's going to be there. One thing that is so frustrating is that he's also contesting on the ticket of NPP at Nkoko. So how do we give such a person an opportunity to print ballot papers? Well, we expect that the Electoral Commission should be very fair to all stakeholders. Again, we requested that the Commission should produce minutes of the meetings where political parties were informed about the selected company. Mostly that is what happens, that political parties hold a meeting with the Electoral Commission and they are informed about the companies that have won such contracts. Unfortunately, they have not given that. So we want the date, the time, the venue, and then the reps of political parties that attended that particular meeting. So today being almost a month. In fact, we
website myjoyonline.com. High Court lifts injunction on a Memphis Central NDC candidate Joanna Kujo. Ghana sees rise in human trafficking. GMA warns of rising alcohol abuse, sexual misconduct among doctors. I would never sit in a minority leader seat. It isn't good spiritually. That's according to Alexander Fegemakin, a majority leader. That's our show for today. Whatever you are up to in the hours ahead, I hope is profitable. My name is Elton Bobby. Same time tomorrow, we'll be here to bring another exciting edition of the post. Until then, take care.